If you're planning on going away this year or next year, this is really important for you. Because the last time I went away, a good mate of mine got stung with a massive phone bill, and I don't want that to happen to any of you. And with Saley, it never will. All you've got to do is click the link in the description below, choose the amount of data and time frame that suits your trip, and then you just install the eSIM on your phone, and when you land at your destination, you will activate your plan instantly. And with Saley, you won't get those massive phone bills when you're away. You won't have to log into the hotel Wi-Fi, and then you get no connection until you get your next destination. You will be well connected wherever you are. So even if you're not going away for a few months, download it now so it's ready there. You will thank me later. And with my code, you're going to get a really cheap deal. Go to saley.com/Geordie and you'll get 15% off your first purchase, which is going to make this super cheap. So enjoy Saley, enjoy the great connectivity, enjoy the good price, and enjoy your holiday. And even if you're not going away till next summer, do it now because you're supporting the channel. Cheers. Ex-footballer Joey Barton sentenced for ex-posts sent to Jeremy Vine, Aluko and Lucy Ward. Yeah, another person in front of a judge over tweets. And we've been covering this a lot on the channel lately, so I couldn't not talk about it. And we're going to look at the actual tweets that have gotten Joey Barton a 6-month suspended prison sentence for the next 18 months. Like, if he makes another mistake, in the next 18 months, he's going to jail over these tweets. Now, for those who don't know, Joey Barton was a very controversial footballer, right? He was often in trouble with the law. He was often getting sent off. And since ending his football career, he's taken to social media and he's been very outspoken. You know, he says a lot of political views that people find controversial. I think he enjoys, you know, getting people riled up a little bit and saying what he believes to be the brutal truth. And for that reason, some people love him, some people hate him. You know, he's the type of guy, even his own mother, I'd be like, well, I love Joey, but I don't agree with everything he says. Just to cover ourselves. And I'm not going to do that in this video because that is irrelevant to what we're talking about in freedom of speech. Whether I like or dislike Joey or agree or disagree with anything he's ever said, that is not what's important here. And it shouldn't be important for anyone because freedom of speech is not just for the people we like. It's for me, it's for you, it's for the people on Twitter who call me a dickhead. They have every right to do that. And I have every right to not listen. And I'm going to look into his tweets today to these victims, apparently, and see where the line was crossed and if it was crossed at all. Now, Joey was found guilty on 6 counts of sending grossly offensive electronic communication with intent to cause distress or anxiety. And even just reading that, I was a bit like, right, well, who defines what grossly offensive is? Because if we're not talking about, well, you said this specific word or whatever, then it makes it very hard of knowing where the line is. It's subjective. You know, what you find offensive, I might not find offensive. Particularly when you work in the media and people in the media generally are called bad things online every single fucking day. You get desensitized to it over time. I don't find a lot of things offensive at this point. And another issue I had was the intent to cause distress or anxiety. Well, how do we know he wanted to cause distress or anxiety? Because people say things online and they put a tweet out, but they're in their own feelings. They're not worrying about what other people are feeling. You know, they're not necessarily hoping that this really hurts someone. And for me, you have to be able to prove he was intending to be really offensive here. He really wanted to hurt your feelings. And he was going to a place you shouldn't go, for example, you know, like talking about a dead relative or something. I don't know, like something really nasty, you know. And you also have to be able to prove that he was trying to cause distress. Like, how can you prove those things from tweets? I guess we'll find out when we go through them because they must have been terrible for that to just be so crystal clear. Now, the first person who accused Joey of these malicious acts was Aluko here, who was a former footballer turned female football pundit, and she was working in men's football matches, which is kind of where this all sort of started from. Annie herself is no stranger to being outspoken and doesn't really seem to fear controversy. She accused her England football coach of racism and bullying when she was playing under him. That caused a bit of a storm, as you can imagine. And she's been very outspoken over the years about racism, sexism, misogyny, a lot of that sort of stuff in football. And actually, there was a news story not long ago about her speaking out against the football legend Ian Wright commentating as a man on women's football games. She basically said that, you know, he's taking job opportunities away from women in women's football, which is very ironic. And it's sad because Ian Wright, I've interviewed him before. He was one of my favorite interviews I've ever done. A football legend, but not just a football legend for the men's game. This man has done more for women's football than possibly anyone. He is our way in, right? He's educating the men on women's football. And I think he's been an amazing supporter and defender of women's football. So for her to go at him was probably very upsetting for Ian. And actually, only when she came under a lot of criticism did she herself then try to make a bit of an apology. And Ian Wright was like, save your apology. And I think a lot of people are kind of done with any Aluko for one reason or another at this point, because of things like that. Not to mention, like, she's just been really criticized a lot for her work as a pundit, like not just by Joey Barton, but by the entire football space online. There's even a top 5 moments where she was like really bad on camera.
You know, he's got a great record, 19 goals in 40 appearances. You know, do the math on that. It's one goal a game, pretty much.
Yeah. Now, I'm not going to go through the entire top 5, but it's only fair to include that because we have to acknowledge that this is not just Joey Barton criticising her as a female pundit on men's football. That video's got 2.3 million views. Like, it's been widely supported by people who are saying, we don't want her commentating men's football or any football. She's not good at her job. So before I look at these tweets, let's just bear in mind that Joey Barton is getting like 200 hours community service. He is spending over £1 million apparently in legal fees fighting this and obviously still lost. And we need to think about, should these tweets have gotten him in a position where he could have gone to jail? How is she even talking about men's football? She can't even kick a ball properly. Your coverage of the game last night took it to a new low. Any Aluko and Lucy Ward, the Fred and Rose West of football commentary. For those who don't know, Fred and Rose West were serial killers who killed, you know, kids and buried them under the patio of their house when England didn't really have, like, ways of catching criminals. The insinuation is that they're murdering the commentary, not that they're actual serial killers. I think that's an important distinction to make here. And yeah, it's not a nice thing to say. It's absolutely not nice. But then again, every day on my timeline, I see people saying a lot worse about Jamie Carragher, Gary Neville, Rio Ferdinand. All pundits in football get major criticism like this on a daily basis. And I think that comparing them to serial killers, I kind of think he's trying to joke there and make an exaggeration, obviously, of this is how bad they are. But being harsh should not be illegal, in my opinion. He's not saying anything threatening. He's just saying you're bad at your job. And again, as I pointed out before, something that a lot of people are saying about her. I think this one particularly got a reaction as to why he ended up in front of a judge. This is a picture of originally of Fred and Rose, and obviously the pictures of the women have been superimposed over the top of it. I think this was a response to ITV Sport, who employ the ladies, and they'd put out a statement sort of saying that he's out of order for what he's saying, and then he said, well, if you can't take a joke and you don't understand metaphors, I'll leave you with this. Basically saying, I'm joking about this whole Fred and Rose thing. There's no need to go fucking make a whole statement about this. And then underneath he says meritocracy rules, which we'll get into that because he keeps saying that quite a lot. Basically insinuating that these women are not where they are based on merit. Any Aluko's reaction to these, and I mean literally a handful of tweets, not even, was I think she left the country at the time and she was like, look, I'm leaving. I need to get away from all of this. And she put out like a video statement.
People say to me, Annie, you know, you can't take criticism. Oh, wow. Wow. If I couldn't take criticism, I wouldn't be doing this. I would have been long gone, mate. I would have been doing other things.
When a footballer finishes football, there's not a lot of jobs that you can go into, right? You're either going into coaching, or if you're lucky, you go into punditry. There's not many punditry jobs available as well, remember. So for her to say I would have been doing other things, I mean, realistically, you're in one of the few avenues that's open for you. There's not a whole bunch of things for you. And for her to say, if I couldn't take criticism, I would have done other things. I mean, you've been publicly criticised here by Joey Barton and you've left the country. That does give the impression, and I don't know, because I don't know the girl, but that she's struggling with basic criticism here. That's a bit silly because he's comparing out to Fred and Rose West, but whatever. Leaving the country does not give people the impression that you are good at taking criticism.
I've been doing this for 10 years now. And the reality is that as much as football is a game of opinions and all of that, there's certain opinions I value and there's certain opinions I don't value. And unless you've actually sat in a seat and been a pundit and been on TV and had the bright lights and had someone in your ear telling you how much time you've got, or you've been in a live stadium where fans are screaming whilst you're trying to talk and you're on the pitch and you've got stats in your brain. Unless you've done that and been in that situation, I don't value your opinion on it. The opinions I value is those of my colleagues, those of my peers, those of producers, those are the people that hire me. And in the 10 years I've been doing this, no one has said to me, we think you're struggling. No one.
That, for me, it really shocked me. The fact that no one's ever had a conversation with her about her performance on camera when she has so publicly struggled to be good in the job. Why has no one ever brought that up to her? Why has no one ever cared enough or had standards and been like, you know, you're actually really not doing so good right now? Why would that not even be a thing for any Aluko when she so clearly struggled in the job? I find that amazing. And look, some people would say it's almost like her performance is not really anything to do with the reason why she's there. I can't say that. I don't know. I don't know why they've hired her. But I'm surprised that her performance is never mentioned to her. And I'm also surprised at her attitude towards the viewing public. Oh, your opinions don't matter. You've never done this job. You don't know what it's like. You're talking about football here. It's not a foreign language, right? It's what most blokes are talking about at work, after work, in the pub. It's not rocket science. And as someone who has done, you know, live gigs where I've been commentating on sports before, yeah, it can be a little bit, you know, daunting. But to say that no one who listens and pays their money for the subscription or whatever has a right to say to me, you could be better on this or this, I think is a joke of an attitude. It's as if she's better than you because she's done that job. I mean, it's not a good attitude to have. And it's not the attitude that moving forward, if this is your attitude now, broadcasters are going to go, let's pick her. She's really endeared herself to the viewers. Now, Joey did reply to this with another tweet. He said, cry me a fucking river. I was waiting for the victim card to be played. Sorry, love, you're a dreadful pundit. You're tone deaf. You can't count. And most importantly, you know next to nothing about men's football. Now, if I'm trying to see any Aluko's point of view and feeling here, she is speaking out and saying, look, I'm struggling with this. Whether that's fair or not, the criticism, in my opinion, up till now has been fair. This is where Joey probably should have just left it at that. Not on a legal level. He's still well within his rights, in my opinion, legally, to continue criticising if he wants. But as a human being, just now's the time to leave it. Which brings us on to clips of any Aluko playing football, which Joey Barton had a lot to say about.
Ah, get it down.
Perfect.
This is the one.
Oh.
I mean, we've all been there. There's highlights. Do you know what I mean? I've had some bad days at the office on the training ground. I'm not a professional footballer. Joey was not impressed. He said, technically, that's awful. She can't move without her legs rubbing together. It's not a good comment, that is. It's not. Don't know why I'm laughing. You have to laugh. She's 18 yards out and can't reach the goal without a bounce. Fucking pathetic. Get them off men's football, off the telly, only there to tick boxes. DEI is a load of shit. Affirmative action, all off the back of Black Lives Matter, George Floyd nonsense. Cancel me. I don't care anymore. Meritocracy rules. And look, she wasn't great in front of goal. I can't deny that. But the whole box ticking thing is really what he's on about here. He's saying she's not there because she's a good commentator. She's there because she's a woman. And they're trying to boost women's numbers on the TV in men's football. So let's break that down. Generally speaking, is she a good commentator? In my opinion, no. There are some good female commentators out there. That's not what this is about. This is about her. Over the last 5 years, has there been an influx of women on men's football TV shows? Yeah, absolutely there has. Loads of them. Did women all of a sudden just get way better at men than talking about football? No, there was an initiative there, obviously. Now, Joey is looking at this going, well, you're not good at the job, so you must be there to make up the numbers. And I can't say that for sure. I don't know why the fuck they've hired her. But what I can say is that she's not good in the job, and therefore, well, what other reason could it be? Maybe she's just really liked behind the scenes. I don't fucking know. But I understand the conclusion Joy's come to, given her performance on camera. And yes, him pointing that out might be offensive to her. But is that grossly offensive? Saying that, you know, you aren't good at your job and you got this job because of something that's going on in the media right now. Whether we agree with Joy's points or not, I don't think that that's grossly offensive and an intent to cause anxiety or malicious. He's being a bit of a dickhead in the way he's wording it, yeah. Not being very nice to her. Probably should have stopped after a couple of tweets. And I wouldn't have sent the first tweets in the first place, you know. That's not my style. But we're talking about, is he breaking the fucking law right now? Because this is all the tweets, by the way. These are the worst tweets. That's it. We'll get into what he said about the others in a minute. But for me, being offended is subjective. And in order for us to all agree, like, this guy needs to be locked away. He's a danger to society. Those motherfucking tweets better be horrendous. And I think what tells us that they're not horrendous is how many thousands upon thousands of people agree with Joey Barton's opinion. If they were that bad and that out of order, why would so many other people be saying the exact same thing? And in which case, should we not throw all them in jail? Oh no, because they don't have a couple of million followers on social media, therefore their opinions don't matter as much. I mean, God, work that out. The law should be the law for everyone, no matter how many followers you've got. That's a nonsense as well. Now, let's take a look at what Annie had to say about what these tweets put her through.
You feel crippled. I didn't eat. I didn't, get out of bed that week. Didn't leave my house. I felt terrified about, just being in my local area. Who knows who's going to see me? I felt under threat. I felt under siege.
If those tweets make you feel like that and you're working in the media, you absolutely should not be working in the media. I've had worse things sent to me on a daily basis for the last fucking 5 years. Saying that you're not good at your job and making a joke about you being murdering commentary like Fred and Rose West, and you're bedridden and unable to eat and acting like you're scared for your life. This is insanity. If you're really good at your job, you kind of have two choices there. You laugh it off and ignore them, or you challenge them because you're like, well, I am fucking great at my job, actually, and I'm going to prove that to you, and I'm going to tell you exactly why I'm great at my job. I feel like, when she says in that quote, who knows? I wonder, I didn't want to go out in case someone knows. And it's like, I feel like Joey said what a lot of people were thinking in a harsher way than he needed to, and kind of made her aware of that reality. We don't rate you. You really shouldn't be in this job. And maybe she felt a bit of a fraud and she didn't want to go out because she knew people would be looking at her thinking, oh, that's the lass, she's getting the easy ride. And as much as what Joey did wasn't nice, and I wouldn't say he should do that to her, I don't think he should be messaging her that sort of stuff. What he did and her reaction are completely out of sync. Call him a dickhead, ignore him, whatever. Bedridden, unable to leave the house, starving. What are we talking about here? She then also blamed this incident for her lack of work recently.
I've done the least amount of work that I've ever done during this 2-year period of this litigation. I've been fortunate to be a regular pundit and broadcaster since 2014. So, and I don't think that's a coincidence. I do think there is a sense of, you get labelled as controversial, by certain sort of sections of football broadcasting, and I think there's a reticence to try and deal with the issues at hand, which unfortunately are sexism, racism
in your case as well, wasn't it?
In my case, misogyny.
I think this is a good time to mention Kate Abdo. People appreciate her. She's great at her job. People don't care she's a woman. People don't care about any of that because it's very obvious to everyone that she is there because she is the best at what she does. For any Aluko to claim that the reason she's not getting work now is because of racism, sexism and misogyny, it's like, did you ever think that maybe when Joey Barton spoke, there was just such an overwhelming amount of people who agreed that it made the broadcasters go, yeah, Joey Barton is, he's not wording this right, but look at the fucking reality of what we're seeing here. People don't like her. She doesn't come across as likable in the way Kate Abdo does, for example. And to be on TV, you kind of need to be likable. Going in interviews and saying, none of you lot can tell me whether I'm good or not because you've never been a pundit. Is that something a likable person says? He is going after the beloved Ian Wright, who is literally, man, he is one of the most loved people in Britain, and saying he shouldn't be getting jobs because he's a man in women's football and they should be safe for women, and the hypocrisy of that whole statement. Is that going to endear yourself to the viewers? Did it ever occur to you that maybe you actually are just shite at the job and a lot of this you brought on yourself instead of blaming everyone else for it? I think the way she's handled this whole situation is unbelievable. The fact that she's prosecuted Joey Barton and tried to have him put in jail for those tweets, it blows my mind. And I think given the way she said that the reaction she had to those tweets, which were silly, some of the comparisons he made, they were rude. But to say that they had that level of impact on you, bedridden, starving and all of that, for your own mental health, I think absolutely she should not be in the public eye because she's clearly not cut out for it. And the mad thing is that after all of Annie Aluko's complaining, other people are speaking out about her and what she's been saying to them. This guy is a former professional footballer, must have got into some sort of debate with her. Hi Paddy, can't ever say I've seen you as a pundit get airtime. There's probably a reason for for that. Not very nice, is it? She says to him, coming for a former player who's been the pundit at the highest level for 10 years makes you look jealous and bitter, mate. Not a great look. I think those words could cause distress to some people. Do you know what I mean? That could cause anxiety. Let me know when you're on TalkSport, ITV, BT Sport, Amazon. I'll tune in to see how you use your airtime. And look, you can say that she wasn't as bad as the way Joey Barton worded it, but equally, like, if you can give it, you should be able to take it a bit. And she's certainly giving it to this guy. And apparently he's not the only one. Another guy called Andrew Gold here has spoken out after he did an interview with her, and apparently she wasn't too nice to him afterwards. He has quoted those DMs that Aluko sent the footballer and said, I won't share private messages, but I will add that he is far from alone in receiving abusive and threatening messages from Aluko. For some of us, it's been tough to watch the victimhood tour so eagerly embraced by a media who should know better. So after her saying that she was bedridden, couldn't eat, all of this stuff, she's been dishing it out privately. Okay then, that makes sense. That makes sense. And just to touch on Lucy Ward also, who she gave a victim statement. There wasn't as much about her in the Joey Barton tweets. He just sort of grouped her in with Aluko. She also said after the fact that she was physically scared after Joey Barton's tweets went out. She said she felt vulnerable going to football matches, which, of course, like, we don't want to hear that. We don't want them to feel that way, but it does seem dramatic, this. On the Fred and Rose West insult, she says, Fred and Rose tortured and sexually abused and killed children, so I really couldn't work out why I was being called that. Joey was obviously just trying to make them into a meme, and I'm certainly not supporting him doing that, but equally, it's like, he's not saying you want to hurt children. I think that's very obvious. She said, I'm in the public eye, and the insinuation with two people who tortured and killed children is not someone you want to be compared to. I don't know if she's thinking someone's going to see her and Annie together and they're going to go, that's them, that's Fred and Rose West. They kill children. That was never going to happen. I don't know if these people have been told by their lawyers to be like laid on thick for the, like, say you were physically scared, because I just don't understand why you'd be physically scared by any of this. We're talking about people commentating on football matches. It's not fucking end of the world stuff here. Now on to Jeremy Vine, who is the TV presenter who was also in the group of people who were claiming Joey Barton should go to prison for his tweets. You see him here on a bike. He's quite known for, there's a few bike videos he recorded where he was calling out motorists and sort of getting them into trouble or whatever, which kind of comes into play later on. The first tweet from Joey was around a statement that Jeremy Vine made about the COVID vaccines.
I guess in the end, Angela, we either allow this or we end up holding people down and jabbing them by force.
Yep, he suggested that holding people down and forcing them to be vaccinated was appropriate, apparently. So Joey Barton called him out for that and said he was a fascist and that he shouldn't be still employed. And also quoted a previous insult from Jeremy Vine, who'd said that Joey Barton had a brain injury. This is the tweet here from Jeremy Vine. Is it possible we are dealing with a brain injury here? This is the first tweet in which Joey Barton refers to Jeremy Vine as bike nonce, which became a big problem. It doesn't seem that serious, but the problem is some people might take it serious. He then repeatedly ats Jeremy Vine with the hashtag bike nonce. And after Jeremy Vine started sort of legal proceedings, I think he was going to sue him, Joey refers to it and saying, well, it was okay for him to claim on national TV that I had a brain injury. And then when bike nonce starts trending, he starts suing. What an absolute loser. And I kind of get his point a little bit in that, like, if we're just going to trade insults, you kind of can't complain when an insult comes back that's a little bit worse than the one that you said. It all seems very childish, this. It certainly doesn't seem like anything I'd ever expect to be read out in court. Joey actually tries to clear up why he's using that term. And he says, well, I only ever called them bike nonce because he's noncing around on his bike, getting Comunas points on their licenses, which kind of makes sense, but it's just the fact that what that word can also mean gives Jeremy Vine the ammunition to go, you've crossed the line here. And I kind of get that. Do I think that means we should be getting Joey Barton in a fucking courtroom? No, not really. Like, if you want to sue him, that's up to you. Maybe have the police have a word and say, look, mate, you need to stop with this. You're crossing the fucking line here. Enough's enough. But given the fact that I just did a video the other day about a backlog, about the amount of fucking court cases we've got for fucking social media offences, I think this is so school kid. It doesn't feel like a serious thing to me, this. And yeah, he's not being nice here. Joey Barton's not being very very nice. But is this illegal? It just begs the question, where the fuck does this end for me? You know, if this is now offensive now, in 10 years, will other things be more offensive? Will they start arresting people for things they said on social media that at one point were normal and then are now, because everything's becoming more and more offensive? Like, where does this end? I think the worst tweet I read, which I think has since been deleted, but I seen a report of it, was something along the lines of, if you see this guy outside of a school, call 999. And at that point, Joey Barton, he did really cross the line there. Do I think he was being serious? No. I think he's just trying to get at this guy and wind him up. And therefore, maybe there's an argument for like intent to cause anxiety or whatever. But this is the first time in all of these tweets where I'm like, all right, yeah, you're getting too fucking close to bone there. A fucking prison sentence suspended is not what I'm expecting for that. A slap on the wrist, you know, a telling off. And this isn't me defending Joey Barton because I like him or I care or whatever. This is about freedom of speech. And we need to treat the freedom of speech with more importance than people's feelings, unfortunately. Because when you get into a situation in society where people's feelings are the most important thing, that's how we ended up with male athletes dressed as women dominating women in female sports. That's how an Olympic gold medalist man beat up a load of women to get his gold medal. Feelings have to be secondary over reality. Now, Jeremy Vine said after the fact that it was a despicable thing to say and that he had a sleepless night and it gravely upset him. And again, I kind of understand that. It's not what anyone wants to be called. And I think he's got a right to make a point of saying that. And Barton deserved telling off, a warning from the cops, whatever. And he also said he felt physically scared. And look, maybe on some level he was worried people would believe that stuff. But I do think the way Joey Barton packaged it kind of gave away how unserious it was, considering the word bike was attached to the word nonce. But look, maybe I'm too thick-skinned. Maybe things don't bother me as much. Let's see what the judge had to say.
The offences against Ms. Aluko were aggravated by hostility based on race. I therefore state, as required, that these offences are racially aggravated and the sentences on counts 2 and 4 will be increased accordingly.
You know, if you're going to say that this is racially motivated, ironically, he's targeting 2 white people and a black person. But if someone's going to say for a fact that you did this because it was racially motivated, I think you should have to prove that based on the messages, the tweets we've seen today. I don't know how you can. What about these tweets were racially motivated? He said that 2 women were bad at their job. One was black, one was white. And again, whether we like Joey or we don't like Joey, it's about the process that he is being put through, that process needs to be workable for the entirety of society, and it needs to be protecting free speech. And that, again, that doesn't mean freedom of consequences. If he was employed by a broadcaster himself and they disagreed with what he was saying here, they'd have every right to fire him. But freedom of speech is about your literal freedom, and the consequences of saying things that slightly offend people should not be losing your freedom, in my opinion, and alluding to this with no real proof. How do you know that these women were as distressed as they made out and that they weren't just laying it on thick to punish him? We don't know. It's all word of mouth. And it's about looking at those tweets on their own and going, is this really that offensive? Based on what an average person, the group, would say. I don't think so. And the way this judge talks, it's kind of mad. Like, he's talking about rehabilitating Joey. I'm like, have you met this guy?
I'm satisfied that it's not necessary for those custodial terms to be served immediately. In light of the steps you have taken, I am persuaded that there is some prospect of rehabilitation.
We can only hope he's rehabilitated. Will he criticise a commentator again? Who knows? The fact that he's saying rehabilitation when we're talking about Joey Barton criticising a commentator for not being good enough for the job. It's absolutely insane, man. All right, he called someone a bike nonce as well, but like, I can't believe what I'm listening to. A danger to the public. He sent out tweets. Now, what is ironic is that this same judge who's just treated Joey Barton as if he's some danger to the public for tweeting, he actually let a paedophile avoid prison who was found with 165 indecent pictures and videos, including 58 category A, the most serious category, horrific. And apparently this guy had 1,578 prohibited images of children, some of which showed young girls aged between 3 and 10 years old. He did not send him to jail. He gave him a suspended sentence, this guy. And yet he's talking about Joey Barton as if he's a danger and that, you know, maybe we can rehabilitate him when you're letting literal pedos out on the streets who are a danger for a fact to our children. I seem to be talking about this on a weekly fucking basis. At what point did hurting people's feelings and being a genuine danger to little kids and women out there become the same thing? And you know why they're the same thing? Because they get the same fucking punishment. In this country, we are giving the same treatment to people who say things on social media without leaving their house, without laying a finger on another human, as we are to actual rapists, to actual pedos. We're in an insane asylum right now. No one, I don't care whether we hate Joy Barton, you like Joy Barton, whether you vote left, whether you vote right, whatever the fuck, no one can tell me that makes any sense. And one of the worst things about this generation is that the freedom of speech has been overtaken and overthrown by the people who say, I'm offended by that. And if I'm offended, I'm right. And if I'm right, I can punish you for that. And again, I'm not saying Joey Barton should be tweeting the things that he's tweeting. I'm saying that the people who he is tweeting should ignore them and turn their back. And if he is out of order, a lot of people will turn their back as well. It's about being grown up. We're not on the playground anymore. We're not running to the fucking school teacher because someone hurt their feelings. I want the police dealing with fucking real criminals, man. Apparently there's a backlog. I don't want them messing around because you're upset. People say nasty things to me on Twitter. Do you know what I did? Turn my comments off. They can feel free to say all the horrible things they want about me. I don't listen, and I go about my day quite happy. Listening to hurty words is a choice, right? Being on social media is a choice. Being offended is a choice. You know, there's sometimes people that insult me and I'll go, that's pretty funny to be fair. You know why? Because these people don't know me personally, so why should I take it personally? And they have every right to call me a prick, and I have every right, again, not to fucking listen. Because that's what free speech is. And you know what's mad? I have had genuinely hundreds of death threats over the years. Hundreds of all, the worst things. I'm glad your mother died. I've had all sorts. Yeah, the internet's a shitty place. It's a bit like when you're driving in a car, people act a lot differently than when they're passing each other in the street, right? It's virtual reality. It's not real. Like, people say things that they would never say in real life. And I've seen, you know, any Aluko saying, well, it is still real though. And it's like, well, if I'm scrolling on social media and there's an OnlyFans girl who's got a kit off and I see her naked, do I then get to go to the police and say that's indecent exposure? She's flashed me there. No. We gotta have a bit of common sense here. You have to understand that this is a forum for people to voice their opinions. And if we start trying to lock up every single person who's fucking critical of us, motherfucker, what will the world turn into? The police won't have a prayer of catching actual criminals. And I definitely won't be having any OnlyFans chicks arrested for getting their kit off on social media. Just saying, that won't be me. Anyway, I'm just getting increasingly uncomfortable with the government's ability to control what people are allowed and aren't allowed to say. But look, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you think it's good that Joy Barton got arrested for this and that'll teach him a lesson. I don't know. Let me know in the fucking comments. Maybe I've got this wrong, and I appreciate all of the comments. Big love to everyone who keeps supporting the channel. Absolutely appreciate it. If you haven't already, please click on the sponsors because they help us keep making these videos for you lot. Big love. Hit the like button, subscribe. I'll catch you on the next one.